Good evening, everybody. The other day, I asked viewers of the channel what they thought about me reading/not reading the new Capenna storyline, and the overwhelming response was, do Bakugan lore. I don't exactly have time for that, but I do have a few minutes spare tonight to review is a good word, new Capenna, and talk about my thoughts on the set and the story itself. Now, the story of New Spaghetti is just... Look, I'm not going to mince words, it was fucking awful. I have very low expectations for what a magic story should be. As far as I'm concerned, if it has a decent beginning, middle, and end, can be decent both self-contained and in the larger mythos of Magic the Gathering, then it's probably good. The actual contents of the story needn't be spectacular. For example, I enjoyed Sundered Bond, which a lot of people I've talked to, they absolutely hate that book. I thought it was fine, just because it was a nice self-contained story that can tie in well to the rest of the Magic the Gathering universe. So yeah, my expectations are very low when it comes to Magic the Gathering stories, and somehow New Capenna managed to just undershoot. Fantastic. It was... I don't know. I don't want to say I was disappointed. I don't think disappointing is the right word for New Capenna. But let me say this again. The Kamigawa Neon Dynasty story was very surprising for me. I had every expectation of that being absolutely awful, just the fucking worst. And then it actually came out and turned out to be surprisingly decent, very enjoyable. I enjoyed The Wanderer, I enjoyed Kaito for all he was worth, and the story was fine. So out comes New Capenna, and I get ready to read it for the channel. I go through all the chapters in quick succession. They did a weird thing where they released like half the chapters in 1 week, and then the rest in the next week, and I thought that was very bizarre. And by the time the second half of the chapters had come out, I was already basically not interested in reading it for the channel. It was... Let's try this again. I reread the first chapter for New Capenna about 3 times when it came out that day. I read it once just for the, just to make sure. I was like, okay, well, this is good. And then I read it again, and then I read it again. And with each reread, I found myself a bit more disappointed. And it comes down to just the quality of the writing, the contents of the writing, and the story itself. Like, how it impacts not just itself, but Magic as a whole. And I'm always really bad at this. I really should be putting bullet points here to talk about. Alright, I just paused the recording and I scribbled down some notes on a piece of paper to organize my thoughts a bit better while I talk about it for you guys. And New Capenna, my distaste for it comes down to 3 main points. The first of which has absolutely nothing to do with the story itself. Rather, it has to do with the set and the setting. New Capenna is very much another example of a theme park set, and by theme park set, I mean a world that's just Pirate World, or, I don't know, fucking Samurai World. It's a world with no real substance besides what's shown on the surface. New Capenna, for example, is the 1920s crime world, and it's very blatantly uninspired. It's just awful. More to the point, it's awful... like, softened. New Capenna is based off of 1920s crime films, gang films. Like, it's very clearly based on a thing that has many aspects to it, and they took the surface level Art Deco appearance of it and slapped it onto Magic cards without really diving too far into what makes these kind of stories, these crime stories, the setting work. None of the history behind what makes a crime film work feels like it's there. And I could talk about how absolutely fucking ass-blasted I was that there are no fucking guns in this set for literally no reason, but I won't because I understand Hasbro is a kids company and they have to be kid-friendly and there can be no thing in their game that could possibly traumatize the kids. It's a really sanitized set, and its theme park nature is apparent to me. And, you know, that can work. I'm sure it could, in theory, work. It's just, it's lazy design. It's lazy writing. And so that definitely impacts the story a bit when what we're being shown is just, not desensitized. That's the wrong word. My apologies. Like, I don't know, I guess watered down, perhaps? That's probably for the best. So, yeah, my first major complaint has nothing to do with the story itself. It's just a bad taste that was in my mouth from the get-go. And that definitely, disincentivized me from reading the story. But that's not, the main reason. The main reason is my second point, and that is, this story has no fucking impact whatsoever. Not just on the rest of the major magic plot, this story has no impact on you, the viewer, or New Capenna itself. And by that I mean, I honestly, I could not name a single fucking character in this story outside of Xander, Obnixilis, Elspeth, Tezzeret, Urabrask, and Vivian. The main characters. Outside of them, I could not tell you what any of the fucking side characters are named, and that's because none of the characters are all that interesting. Even, Xander, who is, a central character here, is just... I don't care at all about him. I don't care about him. I don't care about his impact on the world or his history. There's nothing there that interests me as a Vorthos, and that is a recurring theme with a lot of non-Planeswalker characters because Wizards does their utmost to not flesh these individuals out. But here it was very apparent. There was nothing in the story that made me care at all about these characters. And by that I mean, in Kamigawa, in Neon Dynasty, Lightpaws, the lady who trained Kaito and his sister and who was trying to set him up to be an Imperial Samurai, she wasn't a super in-depth character, but you cared about her, not because of her, presence in the story necessarily, but because how she impacted the characters around her. The same can't be said of anybody in New Capenna. They're all just kind of, checkbox in. Gang leader number 1 through 5, plus their cronies, I guess. There was an entire side story with Angelo, and I don't remember a single detail about it. If you ask me, what was Angelo's deal, I couldn't tell you. I have literally no fucking idea what he was up to or what was going on there. I read that entire thing and I was just like, all right, moving on. So yeah, none of the characters were just interesting at all, and it was honestly that's honestly the worst part. It's very bad for me when none of the non-Planeswalker characters are all that interesting. Furthermore, the story has no impact. Not just, and like I said before, not just on the major Magic story. I get a feeling that none of the stuff that happened here will ever be referenced again. Obnixilis kills Xander. He kills what is supposed to be one of the big influential crime leaders, and takes over, not takes over his position, I guess that goes to somebody else, but he kills a major figure in New Capenna, and it doesn't feel like it's impactful at all. It doesn't feel like anything of note's gonna change because of that, and it's for two reasons. One, it just, Obnixilis is just going to show up in whatever set Wizards wants to use him in next, so congratulations, he killed a crime lord. Who cares? He's going to move on with his life. And it doesn't feel like the plane itself is going to be impacted whatsoever by that. Urabrask, the third Praetor to show up in the Magic storyline since War of the Spark, and he just, did nothing. Urabrask just kind of sat around for the story and then fucked off. It was, honestly, I don't know. If it wasn't so hilarious, I'd be disappointed, but I think it's funny that a Praetor is just sitting in a corner for the entire story going, alright, I'm here. I'm leaving, but, hey, what's up? The plot point with the angels, which, whew, man, for a setting with all of its angels missing, New Capenna sure does have a fucking few that show up in the cards, and that gets me pretty hard. And there's people online saying that that the story says that the angels are coming back. I don't see that anywhere in the story. There is nothing in the story whatsoever that says to me, okay, this line clearly shows that angels are returning. There's nothing in there that tells me. I have no idea where these people are getting that idea from, because it's not there. It's not in the story. So all these angels that are in the cards, that's just a massive flavor fail for the setup itself. Not even the story or the set. It's just, we are told angels are not a thing, and yet here they are. It's very, very obnoxious. It's like if Khans of Tarkir came out and we were told all the dragons are dead, but there were still dragons in the cards. It would be quite the inconsistency, don't you think? And then the final problem with the story was, this felt very much like just a stopgap for Dominaria. Ever since they announced Dominaria United, it felt to me like that was going to be our next big story set. Like, I didn't have any high expectations for Kamigawa or any of the other stories. I'm actually forgetting what the previous sets were called. Great, I feel like an idiot. I didn't have high expectations for them, because I thought it felt to me like Dominaria United was going to be the next big push in terms of story. Like, not necessarily their War of the Spark, but definitely it felt like it might be like their Ixalan, where a lot of stuff happens. And the ending of the New Capenna storyline kind of seems to confirm that suspicion, where Elspeth is just like, alright, we're going to Dominaria now. And, well, that, gives me the option to segue into Elspeth now, doesn't it? Let's talk about her! You see, Elspeth is one of my favorite characters in Magic's history. There's a few reasons for that. One of them is I fell absolutely in love with her as she was depicted in the Quest for Karn novel. I thought the idea of this timid, traumatized knight who was also a fucking blender when it came to Phyrexia was amazing. I thought that she was an insanely powerful, very interesting character, and for most of her appearances in the story, that stays consistent. In Alara, she's one of the strongest forces on Bant. She's like this nigh unstoppable knight who revives the dead and destroys armies, goes toe-to-toe with Malfagor with no problem. In Quest for Karn, she's got some trauma. She's clearly mentally fucked up, but at the end of the day, when a Phyrexian needs, like, fucking murdered, she's there to murder them. And then the Theros storyline, where she's just casually shrugging off the attacks from a fucking god, and is still like, alright, well, I'm just trying to do my best. And it's all meek and very modest, and it's fucking great. And then along comes New Capenna's storyline, and Elspeth is just portrayed awfully. And it's happened before, where a character that I quite enjoyed is absolutely bastardized by the story. But with Elspeth, it was really fucking bad. First off, the plot, the writing inconsistencies of WotC Strikes Again. Where the fuck is the Shadow Spear? Like, we know what happened to Godsend. Heliod took that. But at the end of the quote-unquote story for Theros Beyond Death, Elspeth took the Shadow Spear and kind of fucked off. And here that weapon is just not around. There's even a part in the story where she's just like, I need a weapon. And I'm like, but Elspeth, you had a weapon. What happened to it? Maybe maybe my brain skipped over the line in the story where she mentions, like, hey, I lost this doing such and such, but that seems like it's quite the problem. More to the point, with or without a weapon, Elspeth is one of the most powerful characters post-mending. she's like Gideon on fucking steroids. She's nigh invulnerable. She can destroy huge chunks of the area around her. She can absolutely fucking annihilate people in close quarters combat. She's like a super paladin, and it didn't feel like that here. It felt like she was like, I don't know, a lady with a sword running around trying to fight off mob goons. Oh wait, that's because that's what was happening. There should be no reason that Elspeth, the slayer of gods and the blender of Phyrexians, should be having any fucking problem whatsoever dealing with goons. They shouldn't even be a problem. They should... That part in the story where they corner her in the alleyway and she has even like the slightest doubt about what's going to go down, that should have just been her pointing at them and going, all right, you're fucking dead. It's awful. Her role in the story just made it seem like she was here to have her here, rather than having her here to progress her plot or to have the story of New Capenna impact anything. It was very disappointing how she was utilized, how she as a character was utilized, not just her as a plot device. Because Elspeth can absolutely be a plot device. Before the Theros Beyond Death story dropped, I thought the entire plot of that set was going to be a Johnny's like going to the Theros Underworld to retrieve Elspeth. That would have been fine. It's not what happened, but whatever. Here, it could have easily been Elspeth shows up on New Capenna and just fucking blitzes the mob bosses, just absolutely annihilates them. But that's not what happened. It was, Xander, I need help. Well, I'll help you if you do a little something for me. No, Xander, I don't think you understand. Elspeth can kill gods. It's not a case of she does a favor for you and you give her the information you want. It's a case of, Xander, give her the information she wants or she kills you. That's what it should have been, and they just didn't go with that. Writing is... I'm not an author, you know? And I'm not even the best critic. I'm an awful critic. I like objectively terrible things, like the Magic the Gathering story, but here it just felt so contrived. She was doing things more or less because the story dictated she had to, rather than any real meaning. Like, she's on New Capenna to investigate Phyrexia for a Johnny, for the Gatewatch. Why? She hates Phyrexia. Why would she give three shits? Why isn't a Johnny here with her? More to the point. And why does she, like, instantly trust fucking Vivian? Why does she instantly, like, she looks at Vivian in the story and she's just like, yep, that seems like a trustworthy, swanky gal to me. And I would have just been like, no, that's a horrible judge of character, Elspeth. Why would you do that? So, those are my, before I go on rambling about my waifu Elspeth for another 15 fucking minutes, those are my real major problems with the story. So, A, the setting itself is just a bland theme park set. B, it had no impact whatsoever. None of the characters were interesting. It didn't feel like the events of the story had any impact on New Capenna or the magic story in general. And C, Jesus fuck Elspeth, why are you even here? Please, go do something else. Go fucking... Go back to Theros and slap the ghost of fucking Heliod, or fuck your boyfriend. Who cares? Anything but this. This was awful. So, alright, thank you guys for tuning in to me rambling nonsensically about a story that I'm going to completely forget about in like 3 weeks. Please subscribe if you want to hear more nonsensical rants from a guy who really should be locked up in an insane asylum, or if you want to hear me talk about the lore. That's also a thing that I do. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe, like, comment, and all that good stuff. Good night.